Morning, guys. Welcome to Wednesday's English. I hope that we're all feeling okay and starting to prepare ourselves for returning to school face to face next week. Very exciting. So, we are today going to be looking at poetry because, like I said last week, it's our focus for the whole half term. So, a lot of our lessons are about poetry using our class book, Cloud Busting, to help us. Right. So, today we're going to be doing some reading comprehension using this book to help us. So let me get the what, how, and why for you. So we are going to retrieve information and infer from our class text by reading and researching and using those master's magnifiers so that we can find the answers to some questions that I have set up. So before we start, just a quick reminder about what those magnifiers are. Pause the video and note down the master's magnifiers and what you can remember about them, and then we'll go through it in a sec. Okay, so these top two are the ones that we're going to be using a lot of today. So let's start at the bottom. Predictor, you guys are great at this, at predicting what might happen and why. And we can come up with some fantastic ideas. And now we just need to make sure that we are using evidence to help explain why that happens. So for example, I wouldn't say, I think that Mallory, this cloud busting is about somebody making sausages for lunch, because it's not got anything to do with it. So I'm using this evidence of cloud busting and the title and the picture to say that I think this might have something to do with looking at the clouds, and we'll find out a bit more. So using the evidence to help us predict what might happen. Also, word selector, very important in poetry because words are chosen to make us feel a certain way. And so our author will be choosing words that have a particular effect. The summarizer, can you explain what the text was about? So thinking about those key points and writing that in a summary. Seeking the opinions, so understanding the viewpoints of the author or the different characters within the book, which will be quite interesting as we go through to see the opinions of these characters and whether they change. Okay, the retrieval finder is where you look for an answer in the text. So we use keywords from the question, find them in the text, and usually the answer is there somewhere. And finally, the Inference Illuminator. So we're using evidence and quotes to explain a conclusion, to come to a conclusion. So it's not something that we know for sure, but it's something that we think is the answer based on the things that we have read. So we are going to be doing a lot of inference today. So the question is, how do you think this character feels? My face began to burn hot, then burn cold. So we need to use our own understanding here. What do I already know about my face when it burns hot and cold? What do I know about when my face burns hot and cold? I'd like to have a pause and see if you can come up with an answer for this question for me, and then I'll go through what I think. Okay, so what do I already know about when my face burns? My face burns if I've done lots of running or lots of exercise and I'm out of breath. But then, I don't think that fits. My face burns when I'm embarrassed. And I think that might fit here. Because if you turn to page 9 in your book and we read around that quote to get a little bit more of an idea, we can see that if we just start reading from the bottom of page 8 up to the top of page 9, that's where this quote is. I put my hand up. Sir, can I write about Davy? The class went very still, very quiet. My face began to burn hot, then burn cold. And now I've read around that quote. It's given me the understanding that the class went very, very quiet. So it's not my face is burning because I've just done some exercise. My face is burning if the class have gone quiet and still. Then maybe I'm feeling a little embarrassed, or I feel like they're all looking at me and listening to me. So that's the answer I would give for that one. Because the author is doing show me, don't tell me. So when Miss Noble says, show me, don't tell me that you're hungry, blah, 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 the author is doing that. They're showing us, but not telling us that this person is embarrassed. They've not said, I was embarrassed, but they've given you the information that means you can get to that conclusion yourself. So this one is all about our character feeling a little bit embarrassed about what they've asked. to give yourself a mark as to whether you think you've got that first one. So question 2, we're going to keep doing this. I'll show you the question, we'll talk it through, and then you answer it. So that's going to be the structure. What do you think this saying means? And you can read around the quote to find more information. So page 10. So the quote itself says, "You don't miss the water till the well runs dry." If I read a little bit more around it, it might give me more information. So page 10. Ooh, there we go. I'm going to start about halfway. I want to write about Davy because my mum says you don't miss the water till the well runs dry. I want to write about Davy because when he was here, I never gave him a second thought. I want to write about Davy because now he's gone, I can't get him out of my head. Okay. So that's a saying. You don't miss the water till the well runs dry. What do I know about that? I'm not missing the water, but I do miss the water when it's run dry. Have a go answering that question and then I'll share what I think with you. Okay, so you don't miss the water, so you're enjoying it, you're not missing it until the well runs dry. So when it runs dry, we do miss it. I think that we miss the water because it's not there. When we've got the water, we're not bothered, we don't miss it. When the water's gone and the well is dry and there's no water, then we do miss it. So that links to a saying that I've heard before. You don't know what you've got until it's gone. So that saying's about missing the water. So when you've got water, you don't miss it. When you don't have water, you miss it. I wonder how that relates to our book. I never gave him a second thought. I want to write about Davy because now he's gone. I can't get him out of my head. So you miss the water when it's gone. Wonder if our main character is missing anybody now that they're gone. I think that our main character, our narrator, is missing Davy now that Davy's gone, wherever that gone is, whatever that gone is. So that means that he didn't used to be bothered about Davy. But now that Davy's gone, I think he cares about him now. What that quote means in relation to our book. Okay. So well done if you got something along those lines. Now, question 3, let me cover them up so we're looking at them a question at a time. We're going to do 5 in total. So when you think you've got an answer for this one, then write it down for me. So what does the author mean by this quote here? Then we all roared like we had toothache. Do you think they might be in pain? Let's read around the quote. Page 19. Oh, hang on there. Oh, yes, that's what I said, sir. Busy feet. A moment's stunned silence. Then we all roared like we had toothache. If someone shouted that they've got fizzy feet, and then everybody roared. Is everybody all of a sudden in pain? Have a go at writing an answer to explain what you think has happened, and then I'll share my thoughts. Okay, so when we have toothache, we might roar, and it'd be like, ah! That ah sound could be pain, but I don't think it is pain here. Because that would be very random if everybody all of a sudden got toothache at the same time. So I think because someone said they've got fizzy feet, that's a bit random and a bit maybe even silly. So I wonder if that roaring is roaring with laughter. That's what I made a note of in my book. I wrote, oh, if I can show you. I wrote laughter. Then we all roared like we had toothache. I thought that meant laughter. If you've got a different answer, then that is, of course, absolutely fine, because this is all about what we think it means, okay? And as long as you can explain why you think that, then you're along the right lines, okay? So I think it's because everybody was laughing. If somebody's just shouted that they've got busy feet, I'm not going to be in pain all of a sudden. I'm probably going to be laughing. So that's my answer. Mark yours. Okay. Let's move this. Don't need it yet. Oh, and there it's poking out the bottom now. Anyway, so we're going back to the start of the book now, page 5. And again, guess what? I'm going to read around the quote. What does this tell us about Oliver? Only Oliver put his hand up. Then he would. He would what? He would put his hand up. I think that's what that's saying. Let's have a read around the quote to get more information. So it was on page 5. But I'm going to read a little bit further back from page 4 at the bottom. Hands up those who like classical music. And me and almost everyone kept our hands down, except for Oliver. Only Oliver put his hand up, but then he would. Okay. Let's read a bit further down. Rap, and Mr. Mackey said, rap music and pop and punk and rock have words, and the words are poetry, set to music, that's all. What about classical music? Asked Oliver. But then he would. It's obviously something very obvious to the narrator that Oliver would, of course, Oliver's going to put his hand up when you ask about classical music. So what does that tell us about Oliver? Make a note of your answer. So my answer, I think, if only Oliver puts his hand up, of course Oliver puts his hand up when we're talking about classical music. That's what I seem to get from it. So to me, that means that Oliver is known in the class. Everybody knows that Oliver likes classical music. And in that situation, that is slightly different to the rest of the class because they all don't seem to like it. So I think it's quite clear that Oliver has different likes. I think it's clear that Oliver likes different things to the rest of his class. And so this tells us that he's got a very different taste and he really likes classical music. Okay, final question then. What does the author, not what, Miss Noak, why does the author use one line at the end? Why do you use one line here? Let's make this a little bit bigger. Davy never lived that down. The class bully wouldn't let him. What a dog. Davy hated the name Fizzy Feet. Oh, so that's what he got, Fizzy Feet. But what could he do about it? Not much. Nothing. Bully wouldn't let him. So, why do we think the author has used one line? So we've had 4 lines here, and then 1 line. And that's different to the rest of the poem. I wonder why. Make a note of why you think the author's used 1 line at the end. I think they've used 1 line because it's a little bit like a short sentence. You've got all of this paragraph here, or stanza, all of this stanza here, and then boom, you've got 1 sentence at the end. And I think that they've used that 1 line because it makes you really focus on that final point. Just 1 little point right at the end. The class bully wouldn't. Very menacing. And it makes it sound like the class bully was very unkind and didn't let him forget that he had got Fizzy Feet. So I think that that 1 line has been used to really show how unkind the bully is and that the bully's not going to let him forget his name, Fizzy Feet. So just like when we have short sentences to create suspense, we've got a short paragraph or a short stanza. So instead of having big paragraph or big verse, big stanza, another big stanza, and another big stanza that would all be the same, we've gone for something different, 1 sentence at the end, because it's different, it makes it stand out. And because it stands out, it makes us remember it and look at it more. I think it's making us think that the bully is quite menacing. So that's my answer to that one. Okay, I think where I planned the lesson to end. I hope you enjoyed going through and answering these questions. And I hope that from the one thing that we remember from this video is that it's really important to read around the quote. Okay, so for example, you don't miss the water till the well runs dry. That one we could have worked out, but reading around and having a look at page 10 and reading a bit of extra information really helped us to understand what was going on at that point of the story. We were talking about Davy going missing. So it makes sense then to make sure that if you've got a quote or if you've got something in your question, read around it because you might find some more clues. I've enjoyed being reading detectives today and finding out what's going on in all of these quotes. And I'll see you tomorrow for another English lesson. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. See you later.